Good afternoon, everyone. We will call to order the June 9th, 2025 meeting of the Forward Pinellas Board. If everyone could please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now we will go around the board and do introductions. And if we could start today with Councilmember Albritton.
Okay. Dave Albritton, City of Clearwater Council Member.
Chris Shear, Pinellas County Commission, District 1.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brandy Gabbard, City of St. Petersburg, District 2.
Good afternoon, Chris Johnson, City of Largo, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Katie Gannon, Mayor, City of Oldsmar.
Good afternoon, it's Mike Eisner, Vice Mayor, Tarpon Springs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Deborah K. Sanders, the Council Representative for District 5, St. Petersburg.
Good afternoon, everybody. Joe Ayu, Mayor, City of Safety Harbor.
Good afternoon, Tom Shelley, Deputy Mayor, Bel Air, representing the North Inland communities.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wow.
Thank you. I'm Richie Floyd, City Council Member for District 8 in St. Petersburg.
Good afternoon, Council Member Mike Menino, City of Clearwater.
Good afternoon, Brian Scott, Pinellas County Commission, District 2.
Hi, Mo Franey, Mayor of City of Dunedin, but also with me is an intern for the summer. This with me, Lily Rocks, sitting right over there. I told her how brilliant this board was, and she would not want to miss it, so don't let me down.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Renee Flowers, District 7.
Good afternoon, I'm Councilmember Patty Reed from the amazing city of Pinellas Park.
Dave Eggers, Pinellas County Commissioner.
And I'm Gina Driscoll, St. Petersburg City Council Member for District 6, and honored to serve as your chair.
I'm Whit Blanton, I'm the Executive Director.
Right, thank you, and thank you everyone for being here today. Tina, do we have any citizens who have requested to be heard today?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have David Ballard Geddes Jr.
All right. Thank you. And sir, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak, as is our custom.
Hi, thank you. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live on Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. Let's say, for argument's sake, that 9/11 was a false flag operation, an inside job, and George Bush was holding school children hostage on 9/11 while Donald Rumsfeld stole $2 trillion and gave it to Tony Blair of Great Britain. And following 9/11, we attacked both Iraq so Dick Cheney could take over the oil fields, and we also attacked Afghanistan so Monsanto could establish his genetically modified poppy fields, kind of like the GMO marijuana market here in the United States. And the Patriot Act serves to protect those who are here to capture and attack this country as part of an actual invasion as revealed in Article 1, Section 10 of our current Constitution, basing such Patriot Act on the right of expatriatism signed in the day before ratifying the 14th Amendment in an attempt at getting 3 birds with 1 stone. And Forward Pinellas is aiding the furthering of this invasion of such in the buildup, hardening, and fortifying of, patronizing the advancement of such invasion, fortified as based on Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, in the establishment of despotic jurisdictions 10 miles square in parameter, keeping in mind the airport security checkpoints, cameras at every intersection, the roundabouts at the and downtown, and the comprehensive redevelopment plan is intended to protect an actual invading force super interpositioned in as government, a fake government candidly playing a game of pretentiousness for 250 years as based on the Declaration of Independence, intending to usurp the reins of government, contriving, invoking, giving rise to factious, tyrannical water jurisdictions intending to use the reclaimed water through our sprinkler systems to transmit an airborne virus as a weapon of mass destruction and start a real pandemic in the furthering of such invasion, hoping to blame someone other than themselves while laying us to bear. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina, do we have any other citizens wishing to be heard today for our public comment?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close that and go on to our recognitions and announcements, starting with an introduction by Whit for the new Accounting Services Coordinator.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to let the board know that we've hired a new Accounting Services Coordinator, Madison Rush. Madison, if you would stand and raise your hand, introduce yourself. We'll have her come and address the board at some point in the future, but Madison has been with us now. This is her 4th week, and she's hit the ground running. She actually came in on her vacation while Margie Green was still here as our Accounting Services Coordinator to learn from Margie. So really a lot of credit for Madison to just take that initiative. We're so glad she's here. She's done a great job. She's responsible for our payroll, so we love her already. She also does a lot of other activities in terms of billing and invoicing and ensuring consistency between the Pinellas Planning Council and the MPO in terms of our operations. And I do want to draw the board's attention to the letter that you all have at your desks. It came in late last week after the agenda had gone out. We were notified about a month ago that we were being audited by the Florida Department of Management Services Division of Retirement for compliance with the Florida retirement system. And that's never happened to us. We've heard of a few county departments that have had this audit happen. In fact, some of them said it could take a year to a year and a half to do this audit. And 1 month later, we have a letter saying we are in compliance. And I want to credit Madison and Margie and our other staff, Tina and Rodney, who dove into this and responded very quickly to get the Department of Management Services the information they needed. It was like her first week on the job, and we're really happy with the results. So I just wanted to draw attention to that. She's already paying dividends.
Excellent. Thank you, and congratulations on a successful audit. I know that's not always the most pleasant thing to go through, but it's not surprising that you passed through that quite easily. Next, we have a 10-year Staff Service Award. And the recipient of that award is none other than our Executive Director, Whit Blanton. And so I will turn the gavel over to Vice Chair Eggers so that I can help present this award. I don't have a PowerPoint, but I've got some notes here. So I am just really excited to be able to present Whit with his 10-year service award. He was originally hired during, after the merger of our MPO and PPC boards back in 2015. There's one person in this room who might remember that because he is the only remaining member from that group who is still on the board today, and that would be Vice Chair Eggers. So he may recall that time. We spent 27 years in consulting in the private sector before hearing and accepting the call to public service. And ever since then, we know what an impact he's had on our county, especially right now as our population grows and our needs do as well. It is Whit has said that he appreciates his public service role because it allows him to work closely with local governments and elected officials to get things done. And he mentioned that his greatest accomplishment has been the successful merger of the PPC and MPO and creating Forward Pinellas. If you see the culture, the staff, the way that the work is done here, that is all because Whit orchestrated that with his expertise. And I, for one, feel that we are all very, very fortunate to have him on our side, in our county, and moving us forward. Congratulations, Whit.
Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, got the pen.
I know, now you'll have flair. And then,
There we go. Thank you. All right, thank you so much.
would you like to say a few words?
Well, very quickly, it's been a real honor to serve in this role, and it's been an honor because of the outstanding elected officials that we have in Pinellas County and the outstanding staff. And the communities from Tarpon Springs to Gulfport are just diverse. They're amazing to work with. We have a lot of interesting things on our plate, a lot of challenges that we deal with. This, it's a cliche. We're the densest populated county in a peninsula on a peninsula, but those things make planning in this community really interesting, really challenging at times. And we only can do what we can do with consensus and the support of our communities and the buy-in from the public. And we take that transparency and that commitment to accountability very seriously. I want to thank my staff. I've got a great team to work with. They've made this so easy. People like Tina, people like Rodney, Chelsea, and all the others really help make this structured, well-humming organization, and they deserve as much or more credit than I have. But thank you all for being a great board. I was a little nervous when we went from 13 to 19, but this board has been doing really well, and I really appreciate your counsel, your advice, your guidance, and leadership that you're showing through this organization. So, my pleasure. Thank you.
Vice Chair Eggers?
Yeah. Well, again, just thinking back to, 10 years ago, where we were at the time, trying to bring two different organizations together and needing somebody with not only some vision, but somebody who could consensus build, somebody who was a true professional. And even though we've had our differences along the way, and we've had some, it's always very cordial. It's always, with the utmost respect both ways. And I just couldn't say enough for Whit's 10 years. I do remember a very contentious interview process. We had two finalists, and just wondering how it was going to turn out. Was it going to be close and all this stuff? And we went through the presentations, and I said, well, gosh, I hope everybody feels the way I did. And it turned out to be whatever it was a unanimous vote for Whit, and it was just without question that was the person we needed leading us going forward. Look forward to his continued leadership with his staff, great staff along the way. So again, congratulations, Whit, on the 10 years.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. All right, and if you want to just stay put, we'll go on to our next item. Congratulations once again. Next is the Partners in Action Award that is going to be presented by Whit for the City of Pinellas Park.
Yeah, I'm a lot more
For
excited
that,
about
I would
this.
like to ask Commissioner Reed to join Whit at the podium.
And I'm a lot more excited about this one. So, yeah, I really want to have everybody come up. Thank you so much, and Councilmember Reed as well. Good planning takes great partners, and we are very fortunate to have a great partner in the City of Pinellas Park. The Partners in Action Award was created to recognize partners that bring vision, leadership, and action to support the work of Forward Pinellas. And again, it's not the work of Forward Pinellas so much as it's the work of our communities in partnership, trying to accomplish some big things that are important to each community. City staff, as part of our Bike Your City event this past year, helped design a safe, engaging route with local points of interest. Councilmembers Reed and Ricky Butler, along with city staff, warmly welcomed and engaged the participants. And notably, the Pinellas Park Police Department set a new standard for event safety, securing every intersection and riding alongside participants. Their teamwork, planning, and hospitality made this one of our smoothest, safest events yet. And I know Kyle Simpson has a lot of kind words to say about his working with the city to set this event up so that it did go off so very smoothly. So I would like to take a moment to acknowledge you all, and who's going to take the award? These guys here. And we'll get a picture. I'll stand over here. Dana, can you fit us all in? No, not at all. No, come on.
Oh, yeah.
So today, I'd like to just recognize that we have Councilmember Patty Reed, of course, Lieutenant Adam Smotrich, the Community Engagement Section, Sergeant Brelin Hoffman, Community Police Unit Supervisor, Lizzie St. Pierre, Senior Planner, Planning and Development Services Division, Erica Lindquist, Planning and Development Services Director, Nick Colonna, Community Development Administrator, and Danielle Stewart, Long Range Planning Manager. We don't give these awards out very often, folks, so really great job, City of Pinellas Park.
And hey, Whit, if I can real quick, before they leave, I have to say that.
Patty, you need to use your mic, ma'am.
It is, it's on. It's on.
But you gotta get closer to us.
Oh, geez, oh, Pete. I just wanted to say that everybody that was here and all of our staff and everything, there's a lot more behind the scenes that also went into it, but they're amazing. I mean, every great leader has people that make them that way. We just are up front. But I can't say thank you enough to these guys and how important this was to them and how well they did. It was just an amazing event, and thank you guys for recognizing them because it goes that little extra more than I can do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, and congratulations to you and the others, Commissioner Reed. All right, next we will move on to our consent agenda. Do we have any board members who wish to pull any items from consent to be handled individually? All right, and Tina, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on the consent agenda?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
All right, thank you. In that case, I will entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So move.
I didn't get the first. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll go into our public hearings, beginning with the annual adoption of the Transportation Improvement Program. For that, we have our presentation today by Chelsea Favreau. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, guys. So today, we are adopting the Transportation Improvement Program. This is one of the foundational documents for Forward Pinellas as a metropolitan planning organization. The Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, is a short-term planning document that outlines how federal and state dollars are going to be spent on transportation projects in Pinellas County. That includes all phases of the projects, from planning and concept development all the way up through construction. So this bit of a hot mess on the screen here is the TIP cycle. So it actually started, the tip in front of you today and all those projects actually started about a year ago when you adopted the priority list for the next fiscal year. After adoption of the priority list, we went ahead and we took those projects, we sent them to the Florida Department of Transportation, or FDOT, and we said, here are our priorities, help us fund them. FDOT starts at number 1 and keeps going until they run out of money, ensuring that the projects that are already in the TIP are continuing to move forward and allocating new funding as it's available. And how that process goes is we'll see at the bottom left corner, it concludes right now with the annual adoption. A draft of this came to you at your November meeting of this past year. So you got a snapshot, a sneak peek of what the TIP could look like, what projects would be in there. We presented it with a few recommended comments from our staff. We sent those comments to FDOT, they considered them, and now the final is back in front of you today. After adoption today, the projects will be sent up to the state and up to federal highway, and then the fiscal year will kick off and these projects will move forward with funding. So in terms of things that are included, one of the most important things are the priorities. We include not just our local priority lists, but also the priority lists that we adopt as a region. You'll actually be taking action on the priority lists after this item, but they will be incorporated when it moves forward. We also include the work programs of various local governments, including FDOT, that's the biggest part of it, but also PSTA and the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged. You have some supplemental materials in your packet. If you clicked on the link in your packet, it brought you to a several hundred page long document. If you didn't want to read all of that, we did include some summary tables and maps for you as well, where we tried to highlight anything that's different from the last year, just to really draw your attention to things that have changed. We also have an interactive map posted on our website. It has not yet been updated. It should be by the end of this week. We wanted to wait until it's officially final, and then we'll have an interactive map where you can go in, click on a project, and get all of the details that would be of interest to you. FDOT also has an interactive map of their own. So we have a little bit of duplication, but better more information than not enough. So in terms of what's in the FDOT work program, this is just a summary of all of the changes from last year. There are 21 new projects, 15 projects were removed. This includes projects that have been completed, projects that may have moved out of the work program due to cost escalations. 30 projects remain the same, and then 22 projects have had some kind of change to them. So just some highlights, and I have gotten the question from some of our advisory committees where these highlights came from. Our staff went through every project in the work program. We tried to pick out the projects that we thought would be of most interest to you. But if you have questions on other projects, our partners from FDOT are here to answer those questions as well. So just some bike ped project highlights. We have the Pinellas Trail Loop Phase 3 from Ulmerton Road up to Haynes Bayshore. Construction is funded on that project in 2026. The Joes Creek Trail, the preliminary engineering on that is already underway. It's a Pinellas County project that is receiving some federal dollars, and construction is planned for 2025. Phase 5 of the Pinellas Trail Loop, this is along San Martin Boulevard from 83rd Avenue North up to Gandy Boulevard. That project is currently in design, not including the bridge itself. This is just for the trail. And then construction is funded for that in 2028. And then on 46th Street, this is in the unincorporated Lellman community. These are sidewalks with preliminary engineering in 27 and construction in 29. In terms of some of the roadway projects that are coming up, Pinellas County is receiving some state and federal dollars for Bel Air Road. These are for intersection improvements from Keene all the way over to US 19. This is partial construction funding out in 2030. 22nd Avenue North, this is a City of St. Petersburg project. There's preliminary engineering funded in 2030. This is for intersection and signal timing upgrades along the whole corridor of 22nd Avenue from 58th Street on the west side over to 4th Street on the east side. And then another Pinellas County project is Forest Lakes Boulevard from State Road 580 up to Tampa Road. Preliminary engineering is underway. Right-of-way has some funding in 25, and construction is funded in 27.
Number one, could you you talk about intersection improvement, but it's a stretch of road.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on there?
So it's going to be broken up into pieces. It'll include intersection upgrades, the construction of a trail on one side of the roadway, which side I believe is still to be determined, and also just some general operational improvements at the intersections to help them flow a little bit better.
That's not the road where it's tree lined and.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes.
So safety improvements too?
There will be safety improvements, absolutely.
Certainly one of the areas we've had major issues.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there have been issues there with pedestrian safety, and those will be addressed as part of this project. I don't believe the county knows 100% what those details are going to be yet, so for now, we're securing funding in the outer years so that it's available when they're ready to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Some additional roadway projects include Alt US 19 at Curlew Road. This is an intersection improvement with design build funded in 2025. This also includes improvements to the Pinellas Trail crossing at that intersection. 28th Street North from Pinellas Trail up to 1st Avenue North. This is part of a larger project that extends all the way up to 13th Avenue North. It includes roadway improvements for vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclist safety. Construction is funded for that in fiscal 26. And then Central Avenue from 34th to 31st Streets in St. Petersburg. These are intersection corridor improvements at each of those different intersections along the corridor with construction funded in fiscal 26. So we did take all of these to our committees, and I will say this is the first time in several years, all of them had unanimous approval of the final transportation improvement program. So in terms of next steps, today we are seeking your action to approve the TIP, and once it is approved, we'll transmit it to the state and federal government for their review and incorporation into the budget, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabbard.
Thank you, and thank you, Chelsea, for the update. 2 questions. First, I will start with the improvement. Let me go back to it. The US 92 Gandy Boulevard, Brighton Bay to Gandy Bridge. So now that the announcement has been made that the dog track was sold to a new owner, and there's a lot of conversation from the community in that area about the what ifs, like what is going to happen there. And I can remember very clearly from my time back on Forward Pinellas that we had a lot of conversations about the flyover there at that intersection. The importance of that to the complete project where it's been updated on the other side, but this part is kind of left in limbo. Seeing that there is now a resurfacing project there as well. Have we had any conversations about kind of reemerging that conversation about a flyover, what that looks like? Because certainly if a major redevelopment goes in on that site, it's going to change a lot for the individuals who use that for everyday ingress and egress to their property.
Yes.
So can we kind of start to reignite a little conversation about that?
Absolutely. So the concept has already been developed for that corridor with the flyover at that location, and another one where San Martin ties in. So those both have flyovers. In the interim, the roadway is in very poor shape. And the Florida Department of Transportation needs to basically maintain what's out there now. So that's why the resurfacing is in there. But the long-term plan is 100% still to complete those flyovers. That project was delayed a little bit because you didn't want to have 275 tore up at the same time as Gandy. But that project is still moving forward and just a little bit more slowly, but that is still envisioned for the future.
Any idea? I know with these type of very large projects, it's hard to give residents any kind of surety as to timing. But is there anything that I can share with the neighborhoods adjacent that would be helpful to them to kind of ease their concerns with timelines?
So in the long range transportation plan, it is funded in one of the outer years. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head. I don't know, Brian, if you know off the top of your head, but we'll look that up and I'll get that to you after the meeting today.
Perfect. And then in that same regard, a lot of concern as well, San Martin, you mentioned. It's also mentioned in the bicycle and pedestrian improvement project. So the city is undergoing a project right now to improve our utilities along the bridge. The county, thank you very much. You are moving forward with actually getting that bridge done. But we're also looking here at the bicycle and pedestrian improvement. And that's a lot of different players in one space. So can you talk a little bit about coordination of entities? Because we've had some public meetings, both on the city side, the county side, but the residents are very concerned about, I guess, things not lining up between different agencies and then there being continued disruption for a very long period of time.
Totally understand that. So with the trail project that'll be going on either side of the bridge, it is being done in full coordination with the city and the county to make sure that when that bridge is replaced and whatever goes up matches what's on both sides. So there have been a lot of meetings. Our staff is involved in those as well. Everyone's very aware and making sure that something doesn't match up. Yeah, does it not match up with the future?
Well, more communication the better for my district that I represent on these projects, because it's been a long time coming. They've been very patient. Patience is wearing out, and now some of the, I guess, kind of unknown concerns start to come in. So anything that you can help me communicate, I would be very appreciative of.
Will do.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. Any other questions? And Tina, do we have any citizens who wish to speak on this issue, on this particular topic?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
All right. In that case, if there's no further request for discussion, I'll entertain a motion for approval for the board to adopt the Transportation Improvement Program.
So move.
I always get Commissioner Flowers, but I didn't get the first again.
Albritton.
Thank you, and this one is a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. We'll proceed. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Eggers? Aye. Councilmember Reed? Yes. Commissioner Flowers? Yes. Mayor Freeney?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Floyd? Yes. Deputy Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Councilmember Fig Sanders? Yes. Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Ayub?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Councilmember Gabbard?
Yes.
Commissioner Shearer?
Yes.
Councilmember Albritton?
Aye.
And Councilmember Driscoll?
Yes.
Councilmember Floyd, do you wish to weigh in on the matter as well? We're taking a roll call vote for the tip adoption. No, because you weren't sitting in your seat.
Yep, that was.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it was Menino, sorry. Okay, thank you.
That was the longest roll call vote in Ford Pinellas history.
It was unanimous, by the way.
Thank you. The motion passes, and thank you for the presentation, all the work that you're doing on this.
Thank you.
Great stuff. All right, next we will go to item 6B, staying with Chelsea, for the annual adoption of our transportation priorities.
And this will have 2 more roll call votes, so I apologize. You probably should. So we did bring you this item last month in draft format, and I'm pleased to say that there are no changes from last month. So just a little overview of this. Our priority lists are adopted annually. Projects remain on the list until they are complete. And we have 2 different lists to present to you today, and we'll be doing those separately with separate roll call votes. In terms of completed projects, these are projects that are coming out of the work program and off the priority list because they are 100% done. It includes express lanes on I-275, sidewalks along Park Starkey corridor, and some operational improvements along Pasadena Avenue. We have 2 projects that we prioritized last year that have been now been funded in the TIP that you just approved. They include the Grand Central District curb extensions along Central Avenue in St. Petersburg and a corridor study along State Road 60 that will also consider improvements to the Belcher State Road 60 intersection. We have 3 new priority projects that are being added to the list. They include 60th Street from 78th Avenue up to 82nd Avenue North. This was actually part of the Bike Your City ride that we did with the City of Pinellas Park this past year. It includes addition of a side path and treatments to benefit all users, including automotive improvements. Number 4 is a resurfacing supplement. It's called RRR, but it's a resurfacing supplement. And this is going to be a funding set aside for FDOT to utilize when they go into a community and resurface a roadway. It's additional funding to help augment the improvements that they're already planning. It may be some additional safety improvements, maybe some signal timing adjustments. It could be any matter of things to be determined between FDOT and the local government where that project is going to be located. So that'll be up there at number 4. We're hoping this will be an annual set aside. That's why it's quite high in the list. And then number 13 is the State Road 60 multimodal trail that will connect the Duke Energy Trail to the Courtney Campbell Causeway Trail. And so this is just a placeholder for now. There's no funding on this project just yet. So that project will need all phases in order to advance. Some updates on our existing priorities. The Courtney Campbell Causeway Trail overpass is under construction. There was a great article in the paper last week about this project with one of our staff members, Kyle Simpson. The Pinellas Trail Loop section from 126th Avenue up to Ulmerton is under construction. Skinner Boulevard is well underway, as well as the Duke Energy Trail crossing at State Road 60 over near the Home Depot and Old Coachman Road. And there are 3 projects that are being proposed for removal. The Dunedin Causeway operational improvements. These are the improvements inside the park that are unable to be funded with Florida Department of Transportation dollars. So that's why that project is coming off. An overpass at the Duke Energy Trail and State Road 580. And then the Gateway Express connection to Roosevelt Boulevard that we can always bring back in the future if we determine that we need that project now that the expressway is open and functioning quite well. In terms of committee feedback, again, all 3 of our committees, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, Citizens Advisory, and then Technical Coordinating Committee, all had unanimous approval for this list. So with that, we're asking the board, in your role as the MPO, to approve the multimodal transportation priority projects list with a roll call vote. And upon that, after this meeting, we will start that next cycle of the crazy flow chart that we showed. These will be transmitted to FDOT, and they'll use these to develop the next work program that'll come to you in the fall. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Vice Chair Eggers.
Yeah, just, I know we're taking it off. It's the bike ped overpass and Duke Energy Trail and State Road 580, which when we originally did the location of the trail and where it was going to cut through, to me, that was an extremely important piece to put an overpass there. Well, I know since then, Duke Energy's had a problem. Since then, our staff has said that that light that's there now will never go red unless it's triggered by a community that, a condominium association. So it doesn't just have a cycle that it automatically goes through unless it's actually triggered. Which I think is good because it's a really high travel area, and there's nothing more frustrating to come to a light that just for some reason went on and there's nobody there. And that is a hugely busy area. So I'm going to say I think it's probably the right thing to do. Obviously, Duke Energy is not going to allow it anyway, but I think we just keep an eye on that and see if there's, continue to make sure we don't need any additional improvements for that from a safety perspective.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Tina, do we have any citizens who would like to speak on this item?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
All right. Thank you. In that case, I will entertain a motion for approval to adopt the multimodal transportation priorities.
I got
We have
them.
a motion and a second. Could we please do the roll call vote?
Commissioner Eggers? Aye. Councilmember Reed? Yes. Commissioner Flowers? Yes. Mayor Freeney?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Menino?
Aye.
Councilmember Floyd?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Shelley? Aye. Councilmember Fig Sanders? Yes. Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Ayub?
Aye.
Mayor Gannon?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Councilmember Gabbard?
Yes.
Commissioner Shearer?
Yes.
Councilmember Albritton? Aye. And Councilmember Driscoll?
Yes.
That carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you. So that passes, and we'll go to the second part, which is the transportation alternatives priorities.
So this one's quite a bit easier. Transportation Alternatives is a very specific grant program that is dedicated for bicycle and pedestrian projects. It is also not a very large pot of money, and that's why we keep this list separate from the other one and specifically call it out for just this one grant program called TA, or Transportation Alternatives. So with this update, we are looking to add 4 new projects to the list. We did a call for projects to our local government partners, and all of these projects were received through that process. The first one is located in Pinellas Park, also along 60th Street from 70th Avenue down to Park Boulevard, up to Park Boulevard. This is a second half of the project that was posted on the other list. So this will include some bike ped operational and safety improvements. The next three are all in the city of St. Petersburg. The first, 62nd Avenue South from 16th Street down to Martin Luther King. This is a continuation of another priority project that is actually moving forward with funding. And that project goes from 22nd Street over to 16th. So this will provide a continuous side path for bicyclists and pedestrians in that area. The next project is along 9th Avenue North, and this includes closing gaps in the sidewalk network on both sides of the roadway from about Park Street in the west all the way over to 58th Street in the east. And then the last one is the Lakewood Trail. This provides a dedicated side path for cyclists and pedestrians in the Lakewood Estates neighborhood in South St. Petersburg. Committee feedback, again, was unanimous recommendation of approval. And so today we are seeking your approval of this Transportation Alternatives Priority List, which we will then send over to FDOT, and they'll try to fund as many as they can in the next work program. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions on this one? No? Tina, do we have any citizens who wish to speak on this item?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
All right, thank you. In that case, I'll entertain a motion for approval to adopt the multimodal transportation alternative priorities.
So moved.
I have Deputy Mayor Shelley as the first. I did not catch the second. That was a tie, I thought, too. Okay.
All right, thank you. Could we do the roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Eggers? Aye. Councilmember Reed? Yes. Commissioner Flowers? Yes. Mayor Freeney?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Menino?
Aye.
Councilmember Floyd?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Shelley? Yes. Councilmember Fig Sanders? Yes. Vice Mayor Eisner?
Yes.
Mayor Ayub?
Yes.
Mayor Gannon?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gabbard?
Yes.
Commissioner Shearer?
Yes.
Councilmember Albritton? And Councilmember Driscoll?
Yes.
That carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. So that passes. Oh, she's gone already. Thank you, Chelsea. Oh, there you are. Okay, next we'll do our presentations and action items, starting with item 7A, our PSTA activities report. And for that, I will recognize Mayor Katie Gannon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the PSTA meeting, bunch of big news. Of course, I'm sure everybody heard about the Cross Bay Ferry. I'll get to that in just 1 second. Overall, ridership was up 4% in April, which was over 1 million rides for the first time in over a year. Positive news. There's strong ridership up 73% from March on the PSTA Grouper Airport Express. The Clearwater Ferry ridership was high on spring break, up 79% from 3,063 riders in March to 5,400 or so in April, and higher now than pre-pandemic levels. The board voted unanimously to accept a federal grant to purchase 1 or 2 ferry boats from the Cross Bay Ferries for a Cross Bay Ferry service between St. Petersburg and Tampa. And the HART board voted last week to approve the transfer. So that transfer is $4.86 million, a federal grant that PSTA hopes to use to purchase 2 ferry boats instead of the one that was previously used by a private lease. And to own those 2 boats, it remains to be seen whether or not we'll be able to afford both ferry boats or one. The RFP will be issued this summer, but that will be key to the financial feasibility of the program. There was also an amendment made to make it a 5-year agreement that the city of Tampa and the city of St. Petersburg would bear the costs of the program instead of a 1-year plan. Let's see, the next step is the RFP for this summer. The Clearwater Station, PSTA issued the invitation to bid for the new construction of the station in downtown Clearwater. Been coordinating with the city for that modern transit center that's been planned for a long time. Bids are due July 11th, 2025. So hopefully the facility will open in early 2027. An update and an invitation to the groundbreaking for all will be shared at a later meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the PSTA report? All right, thank you. We'll move on to our regional activities report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll cover this one. On May 23rd, the Transportation Management Area Leadership Group and the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance met at PSTA headquarters. And I'm just going to cover the TMA Leadership Group first. That is representatives from Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco County who meet for the core urbanized area of the regional areas, all the MPOs in the regional area. The main action of the group was to recommend approval of the selection of a consultant to assist us with the discussions related to a merger of the Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough MPOs. The consultant is the White House Group, and the Hillsborough TPO will be voting on that recommendation this Wednesday. They are the procuring agency. The funding is from the federal government via the Florida Department of Transportation, but the TPO solicited the bids and did the interview process. I was happy to be part of that. And the way the motion was worded, we have a top-ranked and a second-ranked firm, so if negotiations don't work out with the top-ranked firm, we do have a fallback. I expect that that firm will be under contract sometime by July or August, and then we will get underway pretty quickly with discussions with the public, with communities and stakeholders about what that potential new regional structure might look like. Related to that, I also wanted to mention that I have reached out to the Orlando MPO, which covers 3 counties. My counterpart there, Gary Huttman, was very supportive of the idea of a field trip for elected officials in Pinellas County who are interested in seeing how the Orlando region manages a multi-county MPO and how Orlando is treated, how smaller cities like Winter Garden and Ocoee and Oviedo are treated in that process. And we don't have a date yet, but we are looking at sometime this fall once the consultant contract gets underway. And we will have some details for you, but I would like to offer right of first refusal to all of our board members who are interested in maybe making that trip. And we'll try to make it as painless as possible, getting across I-4 to Orlando. They are an independent MPO, and they separated from their host local agency in 1998, which was then the Regional Planning Council in the Orlando area. So they've never merged, but they went independent. And I think there's some important lessons learned about their governance and how they incorporate small cities below 50,000 population into their decision-making process. So stay tuned on those details. The TMA leadership was very supportive of that kind of a field trip. In addition, the Federal Highway Administration has awarded us with some funding to have a peer exchange, bringing in representatives from at least 3 other MPOs around the country that have merged. And we expect that that'll happen in the early part of 2026. But we had a meeting last week about that, and it's sounding very positive. The Federal Highway Administration has some resources, and they'll come to us. So we're also looking forward to that. So I think over the next year or so, we're going to be having a lot of conversations about the pros and cons and potential benefits of a merged metropolitan planning organization. And I encourage you all to stay attuned, ask good questions, and let me know if I can be of any help in any way. This summer, I will be speaking with members of our legislative delegation just to keep them up to speed on our efforts, answer their questions. We will be looking to host some town hall meetings in each of the 3 counties, hosted by legislative members potentially. And so there's going to be a lot of opportunity for comment. And I think it is going to be kind of through the TMA leadership group where a lot of those recommendations and vetting of this idea occur, but it's going to have to expand pretty far and wide beyond that. So I'll happily take any questions anybody might have.
Just one comment. I didn't make it to the workshop last couple weeks ago, and I apologize for that funeral to go to. But really, I'm glad to see that the group discussing this issue of the merger and wanting a presentation, I guess, at one of the future workshops. And of all the things that we're talking about, and a lot will start to come out with the consultant's direction through the process, I really, it's really good to see the overall conversation about the size of the organization coming to a head. I mean, I know in the joint county commission discussion, There was some discussion about making it a smaller, more manageable group. But the TMA was very strong in their support of all of the work that's gone in to make it a 25-person board, which, you know, the downside to having too small a board is you just have so few representatives from each county. And this way, it kind of gives you a little bit of a balance between what some of the discussions were much larger, but also smaller. So that kind of conversation will still continue to evolve in all the different groups, the commissions that look at it and all the smaller groups. But that was the one thing that the group felt pretty strongly about. So that conversation will be good to have in the months ahead. That's all I had. Thank you.
I'll also just quickly mention that we had our new secretary, Justin Hall, address the group, and the new CEO of Tampa International Airport, Michael Stevens, addressed the group, and both were very positive in their remarks about working regionally and advancing multimodal transportation in the Tampa Bay area to respond to the growing needs of our region. So good to have those folks engaged as well.
Next, we have our draft of the FY26 PPC budget discussion presented by Rodney Chapman. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair and Board. Rodney Chapman, Division Manager. I'm here today to talk to you about how the FY26 budget for the Planning Council is shaping up. This is a follow-up to my somewhat detailed briefing I gave you all at last month's work session. There's a little bit more to share. As I shared with you at the work session, we have a very detailed, multi-phase process we go through working with the Office of Management and Budget. And we're at the point in the process now where we are putting some scenarios together. And OMB is great in helping us understand how the agency's expenses, revenues, and millage rate all work together to fund the operations of the agency. And having done this now for many years, it always seems like we're adding additional things as part of this multi-phase process. And this year, we have added a new element which includes looking back at the Planning Council's audit summaries. The audit summaries are insightful in that they give you a sense not only of what your budgeted revenues and expenses and reserves are, but also what the actuals are. So what are the actual dollars that you're spending? And so we've been taking a close look at those reports to paint a picture for the Planning Council and FY26 budget. It's also important to always remind ourselves that the millage rate for the Planning Council is dynamic. So over the last 30 years, it's been raised 3 times and it's been lowered 6 times. So again, the sense of trying to right-size the rate based on what the operational needs are of the agency is of utmost importance. As I mentioned last month, these numbers will change. There are constant updates that we get from the Property Appraiser's Office as well as from OMB. And there are things that have not yet been settled into the budget. For example, the salary adjustments for our staff across the Unified Personnel System has not been agreed upon by leadership, so those figures are not in the draft of what I provided to you today. So at a high level, what we're proposing for FY26 is a reduction in the rate. It's about a 10.5% reduction from 0.0200 down to 0.0175. Again, keeping in mind, as I shared last month, the maximum that is authorized per the special act is much higher, and the rate that we're proposing is about 10.5% of that maximum. And as you all have come to understand, the county administration does put a lot of emphasis on stress tests, for example. So we have submitted those 3% and 5% stress tests reports as part of our obligations. And with this draft outline that we've come and put together with so far has about $610,000 in savings. So in summary, you're looking at about a $7 million budget in total. The thing that we are also planning to do differently, and you'll see the detailed breakdown in your agenda backup, is to take the reserve line item and separate it into 3 distinct line items that are consistent with some of the guidance that is provided in Florida statute. So essentially, there's about $700,000 that will be set aside in the contingency reserve, which will operate much like the reserve operates, or excuse me, the contingency operates now, where it just requires the approval of a simple budget amendment to access those funds. There'll be another $800,000 or so in a fund balance reserve line item. State statute allows for you to set aside up to 20%. But to access those funds, it requires a budget resolution and a public hearing. And then the third line item is for what is called reserve for future years. And that can be capital or substantial projects. OMB recommended this because this is a line item that the county uses for higher dollar future expenses. And for the FY26 budget, we're proposing $1.9 million for this reserve line item, and that would be to fund the potential, or the Fort Pinellas portion of the potential startup costs for the regional MPO. The other thing that I wanted to leave you with is you often hear me talk about our pretty important technical assistance role and the services we provide to the cities. And just want to give you a snapshot of what we're planning to do for FY26. We are planning to hopefully complete the multimodal impact fee ordinance update that we began in FY25. We envisioned it to be about an 18-month project, and we have hit a couple of delays relative to the couple hurricanes we had last season, and now we have had kind of a parallel process in meeting some new statutory guidance from the legislature, given some legislation that was passed last year. So we plan to carry over about $184,000 out of the FY25 budget into FY26. We plan to spend about $50,000 to work with one of our local governments to amend their codes and standards to make housing more affordable, and Linda Fisher will share more about what some of those changes might look like after I'm done here. We also would like to spend about $150,000 to work with a couple of our communities to remove some of the barriers and create some incentives to help Pinellas County compete for more high-wage employment. This is in a follow-up kind of effort to what we're doing right now with the cities of Pinellas Park and City of Largo. And the sort of policy foundation for this work comes from our target employment and industrial land study update. And lastly, we have set aside about $50,000 for a local match for a federal safety grant that we've applied for. And then just lastly, we hope to complete some regulatory work with the City of South Pasadena along one of their major commercial corridors, but these costs would be covered by our staff time. So there's no dollars associated with doing this technical assistance work for the City of South Pasadena. So in terms of next steps, we have a presentation with the Board of County Commissioners this Thursday to go over our budget requests. I'll come back to you at your July meeting with a detailed budget spreadsheet that gives you information on all 30 expense line items and all 5 revenue line items, and then you'll make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, and they'll act on that recommendation at 2 public hearings in September. Are there any questions?
I didn't have a question. I just had a
I'm sorry,
comment on
Commissioner
the-
Scheer.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. I just want to say, I'm very happy to see that, the reduction in expenses. I was going to tell you how excited I was that the personnel services were going to stay flat, but sounds like you're coming back with some more on that. But this one thing that caught my eye is this increase on reserves by almost $1 million. Seems a little heavy to me. Especially because most of it will be for merger funds that may or may not happen. So, as you're planning, I think it would be nice to see that the reserve number come down, because I just don't think it's warranted. That's all I had.
All right. Thank you. And Councilmember Floyd?
Thank you. I was just going to add, I understand the circumstances that brought all of this along. I'd like to see in the future us be able to do more planning with partner agencies. I think if we could, maybe the millage rate reduction wouldn't be quite so large. I think the millage rate reduction's really optimistic, considering, we've had a decline the last couple of years in our returns in our housing market, and I'm concerned that like next year is going to be an even more significant drop. And so, I think what you put here is reasonable, but like I just don't want us to get into a situation where like in next year when we don't see any returns, we're in a more of a hole. So I'm fine with this today, but I just hope we're planning for all possibilities in the future, because right now it doesn't look super hot in our county right this second. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
One quick question.
Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rodney, just curious, without that $1.9 million in reserves for the, for the startup costs, what would the millage rate be if that wasn't there? I know we met earlier, and I didn't even think about asking that question, but I'm just curious. Don't need the answer now. You can just curious what it is.
Look into that. I think just my initial reaction, Commissioner, is we'd have to look at that over a period of time. It wouldn't, because it would be a big chunk coming out of the operating funds, and so we'd have to look at how that revenue, what that would do to the revenues, for example, in year 2, 3, 4, because that's a significant amount of money that would go away.
Right.
And we'd have to kind of look at the rate and see how to recalibrate that based on that.
Okay. Or if there was a phased-in approach over a year or two, maybe more than 1 year, but just thought.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We can certainly look into that for the budget information session next week, or maybe it's this week. My main concern would be, the millage levy is an operating budget, and so that amount, if it was lowered to reduce, say, the 1.9 million, would leave us handicapped in future years without any ability to really carry on the agency's operations. But there may be some things we can look at and do with the 1.9 million that makes you all comfortable. By this time next year, I'm really optimistic, and I'm hopeful that we'll have a fish or cut bait on the regional MPO merger decision. And if it's not June of next year, it might be August or September of next year, which will be in time for the 27 budget. And then we'll know if we need that 1.9 million or not. Just to clarify where that number comes from, in 2023, when we were required to submit a feasibility report to the governor and legislature, we estimated a range of startup costs, and the 1.9 million is the Pinellas County share of a potential new independent, not hosted regional MPO organization, which means, we're securing office space, we're getting equipment, we're going through a staff acquisition and hiring, and pretty much all those things. And it might be that we're hosted by another organization and some of those costs won't be needed. It might be that we can come up with a lower cost of doing business, and that's what the consultant will help us work through. So it's a placeholder right now, and so I don't want to put too much faith in that number being the right number, but it could be higher and it could be lower. And again, like this time next year, we should be pretty clear on where we're going to be with that.
Anyone else? All right. I think we're good now. Thank you. Next is item 7D, our housing, regarding the housing regulatory toolkit. For that, excuse me, we have Linda Fisher joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Glad to be here. This housing regulatory toolkit was a year in the making, so we are pleased to be able to present it to you today. But I'd just like to start with some background. About 3 years ago, we signed what is known as the Advantage Pinellas Housing Compact. That is an agreement among Forward Pinellas, Pinellas County, and 7 of our municipalities to take a leadership role in coordinating housing affordability efforts across Pinellas County. By the way, everyone is still invited to sign on to this compact. We'd love to have some new members. The compact is a pledge, but there is also a plan. The Housing Action Plan sets out the goals that we agreed to work toward when we signed the compact. It also lays out a set of implementation actions for each goal with timeframes and roles for the different partners. This plan was approved by the Forward Pinellas Board in 2023, and you are the approving body for all of the projects that implement it. And that brings us to today's presentation. One of the major actions that the Housing Action Plan calls for is the creation of practical tools that local governments can use to help create housing that's more affordable in their communities. The Housing Regulatory Toolkit is a set of model policies, regulations, and strategies that's designed for any local government to use. And it serves two purposes. First, it does the technical legwork of researching and best practices and drafting regulations that would otherwise fall to your own local government staff. And then the second purpose is to create a common template. One of the things that we hear consistently from developers is how difficult it is to navigate among all the differently written codes throughout Pinellas County. So the toolkit provides a format to help make codes more similar to each other when it comes to affordable housing. This project was jointly funded by Forward Pinellas and Pinellas County, and we had a lot of input from our tactical team, which is made up of staff from our compact member communities. And we also had consulting help from the Pritchett-Steinbeck group, and they've worked extensively on both the local government and developer sides of affordable housing. But before I talk more about the toolkit itself, I wanted to include a quick reminder of why our communities should take action to encourage more affordable housing. Now, this is not part of the toolkit. This is some background information that was recently presented to the Board of County Commissioners by a different consultant, but it was good information. They found that there is demand for more than 3,300 new housing units in the county each year. And that includes both residents who already live here and are forming new households, like our young adults. And it also includes people who are moving here to either work or retire. About half that demand is households with income levels that need affordable or workforce housing to live comfortably. Now, countywide, we are producing just over 2,700 new units per year. The majority of those are market rate, and they tend to be at the higher end of market rate. Since 2014, median house prices have increased at almost double the rate of median income. More than a third of all households are cost burdened, which means they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. And for renters, nearly 60% of households are cost burdened. And while it is true that rents and home prices are starting to come down a little bit, there is still a significant gap between what housing costs and what our residents and families can comfortably afford. As a quick illustration, the average size of families with children in Pinellas County is 3 people, and nearly 40% of children live with just one parent. Here are some typical incomes for everyone from fast food workers to first responders, hospitality workers, medical staff, all the way up to civil engineers. These workers, if they have these typical families, are most likely going to be cost burdened without affordable or workforce housing. And we need to have the housing to keep these workers in the county because we definitely rely on them. So again, this is not part of the toolkit, it's just to set some context. So what went into the toolkit? Well, we worked very hard to make sure this was thoroughly researched and well vetted. We started with an analysis of comprehensive plans and codes for all 25 local governments. Some of our communities, particularly our compact partners, already do have robust affordable housing programs. So we looked at what's already working here in Pinellas County. And what are other best practices from elsewhere in Florida or the country that we could benefit from adding? We held 3 workshops for local government planning and housing staff in different areas of the country and followed up with individual interviews with some communities to get input about the needs that local governments have and what kinds of tools and assistance would help them the most. We also interviewed several developers of both affordable and market rate housing to hear what they consider to be the barriers and challenges to working within Pinellas County. In addition to our tactical team, we wanted to make sure that we were hearing from a broad range of stakeholders. So we also convened an advisory team made of staff from Pinellas County Development Review Services, Economic Development, Public Works, and our own MPO transportation staff. We gave a work session presentation to the Board of County Commissioners in May, and we gave a number of presentations to our Planners Advisory Committee. At their last meeting on May 27th, they made a formal recommendation to approve the toolkit. And I will just talk briefly about what's actually in the toolkit. We provide a set of model development standards for affordable housing. Things like, how should you define affordable housing? How many units should you require a developer to provide to qualify for an incentive, and at what affordability level? And again, this serves a twofold purpose. We're recommending these standards themselves as best practices, but we're also recommending a format for how to organize this information in your land development codes, even if you use your own numbers. We also provide an extensive menu of incentives to encourage affordable housing. These include both regulatory and financial incentives, things like density bonuses, parking reductions, fee relief, and so forth. And I use the term menu because it's designed for each community to choose what works best for them. We understand that one size does not fit all. So for many of these standards and incentives, we include different levels and options to serve differently sized communities. If you have a smaller community with just a few staff and a planning and zoning board, you might only need a simple review process with just a couple more steps than a typical development review. We call that the baseline version. But for larger communities with multiple departments and advisory committees who need to review these projects, we also have an advanced version that includes all those steps, and all of this can be customized. You choose what works for you. Now, the toolkit isn't just designed for traditional affordable housing projects. We also include model code language for other types of housing, like missing middle and accessory dwelling units, senior housing, mixed use and transit-oriented development. Because even when these are entirely market rate development, they tend to create smaller units that can cost less to buy or rent. And they can also encourage walking, biking, and transit use, which helps reduce residents' transportation costs. We have a section on overcoming barriers to affordable housing, such as educating the community and building networks of stakeholders and supporters. And these tie into other implementation efforts for the Housing Action Plan. For example, last year, the board heard a presentation about our Local Homes for Local People educational campaign, and you can learn more about that effort on our website at homesforpinellas.org. Lastly, we have a set of additional recommendations for supportive actions that we could take as a county or in individual communities, ways that we can provide additional financial or technical assistance and enlist the support of stakeholders. We list some quick wins, some medium and longer term strategies, and who should take the lead on each one. And that is what's in the toolkit. So we are here today to ask you for your approval of the Housing Regulatory Toolkit. And if you approve it, then staff is ready to move on to the next steps to put it to work. There are a few amendments that we would need to make to the countywide rules. Local governments can already use almost everything in the toolkit today, There are just a couple of additional housing bonuses that we would need to enable in the rules. And we have those amendments already drafted, so we can present them to you as soon as next month. And the most important of the follow-up steps is to begin outreach to local governments, making presentations to city councils and town commissions to let them know about this toolkit and that our staff is available to provide help with using it through our local assistance program. And that is the Housing Regulatory Toolkit for your consideration of approval. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabbard.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Linda, for the presentation. One of the things that caught my eye under the development incentives, the very first thing you have here is density bonuses. And as we continue to see more and more of our coastal community, our county is a coastal county, more and more land is being moved into the coastal high hazard area, so that creates some challenges when it comes to density increases. The city of St. Pete went through an exercise in 2020 to create a framework around development of multifamily in the coastal high hazard. The thing that's been a challenge for us has been that as part of that framework, there was a buy-in, if you will, as one of the incentives to a shelter mitigation fee that needed to be created at the county level. That has yet to happen. We have had a very hard time having any conversation really with the county about implementing that. And so I'm just curious if through your planning process, were there conversations about that? Did that come up? And how can we get some traction on having conversation with our county partners? Because all of our cities are going to need this as a tool if we're going to look at what density and redevelopment looks like. And so I just wanted to bring it up here because it's the first thing on your list, and it is, in our experience, the major impediment to being able to do any sort of developer incentives in the coastal high hazard.
Mm-hmm. And that is an excellent point. We didn't talk about a shelter impact fee per se as part of this process, but we did put recommended language for the incentives to exclude the coastal high hazard area. And that has to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. In each city, there may be other mitigation techniques like St. Pete uses, but that was our baseline recommendation, was to just recommend that they not be put in the coastal high hazard area.
And while I understand that school of thought, for a district like mine, which is 95% in the coastal high hazard, not having conversations about what it looks like to move people up out of harm's way, move people from some of the more vulnerable single-family neighborhoods to multifamily along our corridors, not having kind of that vision of what it might look like to redevelop some of these areas, and just saying that we're not going to incentivize any sort of density where it makes sense, that we want to almost take kind of like a retreat type of a stance. That I think is very dangerous for our tax base, and that's very dangerous for the viability of these coastal neighborhoods going forward. So I just think we need to have much bigger conversation than just kind of a blanketed, okay, we're just not going to talk about what it looks like to do any sort of density, because I think that there's density where it makes sense within some of these areas, but without having that partnership with the county, the cities can't do it alone. So I'm just putting the plug in for our coastal communities because I would imagine some of my partners here at the table may have similar concerns.
And I appreciate that perspective, and I think that's an excellent point. I just want to say we aren't finished with the Housing Action Plan with this project. This is a package of tools that we're making available, but we're continuing to have conversations about how best to implement the Housing Action Plan, and certainly we can work again on bringing the county in to have that discussion.
And I'll just add real quick, I mean, great points. We did engage the county staff in emergency management for a couple of years there on this. We had a formula kind of built in and reviewing, and it just kind of stopped there. There has been pretty significant retirement in emergency management, which doesn't help us because there's institutional history there. So we'll try to renew that discussion. I think this summer would be a time to do it, but we're right in the peak of hurricane season again. So if we have a smooth hurricane season, maybe we can get back on that track faster than otherwise.
Well, this morning at the Regional Planning Council, Jeff Baradelli came on and did a very positive and hopeful presentation for us. So we're going to cross our fingers that this time next year, we're not all suffering from PTSD anymore,
Right.
and we can have some real conversations about how our community moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree. This is, one of several areas where we need to apply the lessons learned. And we've identified things that need to change, things that need to adjust, and really start thinking bigger. Because if we don't, who will? And we're responsible for this. It's literally our job.
I did also want to mention, I apologize, I neglected to mention that we are looking forward to holding a housing summit next year where we include both the recommendations of the Housing Regulatory Toolkit, but also lessons learned from the hurricanes. And as we build back for the long term, how we can do it better, how we can do it more affordably.
All right. Thank you. I don't know, I know on one of the, I've got a lot here, but there was the, as far as your next steps for this, it goes to, did you say that you're going to be talking with the local governments next?
We're going to be asking. We won't just barge into their council and commission meetings, but we'd like to go around and talk about the toolkit, what it is, what we can do to help communities use it.
Okay. Thank you. And you're very fortunate to have members of the St. Petersburg City Council's Housing, Land Use, and Transportation Committee here. Actually, 3 out of 4 of us, including the chair of that committee. So whether it's that or for the full city council, I think we could make sure that that is prioritized because the topic is a priority for us.
I appreciate that.
If you are, maybe you have already, but I feel I would be remiss if I did not suggest that as you move forward, maybe getting in touch with former State Senator Jeff Brandes of the Florida Policy Project. I was able to attend a good chunk of his housing summit that that his organization hosted recently, and so much of the work that he and his team are doing are directly in line with this and related to it, that we should not let that opportunity slip by to use that as a resource.
I appreciate that. I did also attend their last 2 summits that they had, and there was a lot of good information, and I agree there's good opportunities for partnership there.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or anything to add for this? Great. Tina, do we have any members of the public who would wish to speak on this item?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
Okay. In that case, I will entertain a motion to, for the board to accept the sorry, it's on the wrong item, to approve the housing regulatory toolkit for its next steps.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Seeing that there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Our next item is item 7E, which is our Executive Director Annual Performance Evaluation. And I will just do a quick introduction on that from here, if that's all right. So we have, for this item today, we're asking the board to approve the recommendation of the executive committee or alternative action as deemed appropriate regarding the results of the Executive Director Performance Evaluation. The Executive Committee had met and discussed the results. I personally would like to thank all who participated in the evaluation process and shared their experiences and opinions on Whit Blanton's performance. The Executive Committee recommended that the Executive Director receive the same cost of living salary adjustment that will be budgeted for all employees of the Pinellas County Unified Personnel System for FY 2026. You can see from the materials that are in your agendas some of the feedback that was given. I thought that this was, in my opinion, a very accurate assessment of Whit's performance. And I do appreciate that all of the recommendations for improvement, the ideas for how, I mean, the board generally agreed that the performance has been satisfactory or exceeds expectations. And the opportunities to enhance this performance are things that are very real and very realistic. So I was delighted to agree that he should get some type of increase, but I believe we don't know exactly what that amount is going to be at this time. That's why we don't have a percentage in your backup material, because we want it to be aligned with the others in the county, and that has not yet been finalized. So whatever that ends up being, that's what we'll get. I hope I explained it correctly. I wanted to give you an opportunity to weigh in and thank all your fans.
I think you answered it or addressed it very capably. We vary this process a little bit each year. The Executive Committee is empowered with determining the process for my evaluation. And I think this year is a little bit different just because we have so many new members to this board, a few returning members, Commissioner Shelley and Councilmember Gabbard, but for the most part, it's a bunch of new faces who are figuring out Ford Pinellas, figuring out me, how to work with me, how to work with the staff, and I appreciate those who took the time to respond. We really focused a lot in the discussion about communications and visibility and being available to the public and to stakeholders and partners, and that's something we're certainly going to continue to do and will step up in the next year, mainly because there are just so many things that are happening at the federal level and the state level and at the local level here in Pinellas County that require that we be engaged and we be front and center in these discussions. I think every one of our communities, all 25 incorporated local governments, is having some sort of existential evaluation of their development patterns, their housing strategies, their economic potential and possibility, just because the last year has been so challenging for so many people and so many communities. But we've got a bright future here in Pinellas County, and Ford Pinellas is poised to think most about that future and really continue to be the conscience of the county from a development and transportation perspective. And we lean into that. So I look forward to your partnership. I look forward to working with each of you and welcome your thoughts and suggestions about how we best go forward.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, we have a motion and a second. Tina, do we have any citizens wishing to speak on this item?
No, Madam Chair, we do not. But was it Commissioner Scott that made the motion?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, seeing that there's no further requests for discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
It's great that this happened on your 10-year
Perfect
recognition
timing.
day, too.
That's right.
So, what a fun day for you. With that, I'm going to pass the mic to you for the
Okay.
director's report.
Okay, I'll just go over a few things here. I wanted to acknowledge Nasheen Rahman and our staff in the audience. She helped lead the Gateway Commute Options Assessment. There is a report in your packet. Rather than give you a full presentation on this, you've already seen parts of it where we presented some of the impacts of the new Gateway Expressway on the transportation network. And the short story of that is it's lowering traffic volumes on adjacent arterial roads that were very congested. It's providing a faster travel time for people to get to destinations, and it's seemingly performing its job well. I know it saves me maybe 8 to 10 minutes getting to St. Petersburg from where I live on the east side of Clearwater. But the larger context of that is we wanted to explore with our partners in the business community the potential of establishing a more formal mechanism for employers to work together to advance transportation solutions, either within the Gateway area or from the Gateway to other areas. And you may be familiar that St. Pete downtown has a transportation management organization, as does downtown Tampa, as does the West Shore area. The West Shore Alliance is the name of it, and even the University Center in Tampa. And it's a formal collaboration among the business leaders, business community, employers, HR professionals, and employees to give people more options for getting to and from their workplace. And the folks in the Gateway area who we engaged with are very focused on their businesses and their economic bottom line and success. They're also focused on the need to move employees regionally, because a lot of the employees in the Gateway area have long commute times. They're crossing the bridges, or they're coming from Pasco or other counties, because these are some of the highest paid jobs in Pinellas County in the Gateway area. So they attract people from far and wide. There wasn't much interest, candidly, in formalizing that mechanism to create a transportation management organization at this time. And I think part of that is due to the lack of a major commitment of infrastructure in that area that might necessitate that connectivity. And I'll just use an example of something that we're not actively planning right now, but let's say there was a rail component with the Howard Franklin Bridge that had a station over in the Gateway area. Then I think you would see maybe a different response, because that would be an anchor or a hub for people to get to. The 41-mile bus rapid transit corridor that we've been talking about for several years seems like there's not a whole lot of regional support right now, although that could come back at some point in the future. That would also have had a station in the Gateway area. So I think for employers to be catalyzed around this kind of structure, you need that kind of an investment, and it's just not there right now. So there's other things they can think about. In the meantime, we will be planning with PSTA for express service to use the Howard Franklin Bridge on a more regular schedule with more frequency and maybe better span of service. Once the bridge is complete and all the express lanes are open, that would run from downtown St. Petersburg to Tampa International Airport. And that may be enough of a catalyst for the business community to get engaged. So we'll continue talking with them, continue to engage the Chambers of Commerce and others in the Gateway area. But I just wanted to give you that high-level overview. And again, it's documented in your report. But I really want to credit Nasheen for the work she did and the outreach, because we did hear a lot from the business community, and we've taken their comments to account. Are there any questions about that? All right, I'll keep going then, unless there's something else. Legislative report. We're getting close, I think, to adjournment of the legislature, and hopefully they'll approve a budget soon. That conference committee is still meeting, and a vote is expected on June 16th. Just a recap, House Bill 85, which classifies walkways along limited access transportation facilities as a hazardous walking condition, has been signed by the governor. House Bill 687, which increases penalties for driving or boating under the influence, has been signed by the governor. There are a few bills that have yet to be signed. The big one is the transportation bill, which authored by our Senator DeSegli. It includes some criteria for MPOs and adoption into the long-range transportation plan. Generally speaking, we support this bill, but we're waiting for it to be finalized. 1662 is a Senate bill that also deals with transportation that concerns state priorities such as advanced air mobility, and I have my 4th Advanced Air Mobility Task Force meeting this evening. Senate Bill 180 prohibits local governments from adopting more restrictive or burdensome regulations after hurricanes, and that will affect jurisdictions affected by Debbie, Helene, and Milton, which is Pinellas County, and that applies over a 3-year period through October 1st of 2027. Our main concern about this bill, there are some good provisions, is that it will put a lot of cold water on well-intentioned, good regulatory reforms that might be needed. It's possible that some will look at the housing regulatory toolkit as a more restrictive measure, and so comprehensive plans and policies that have been in development for a year or two may be stuck for 3 years because of this bill. And not because they're necessarily making things more burdensome, but because there's a fear or a threat that they may be making them more burdensome. So that's kind of an unfortunate one. It has not been signed yet. Senate Bill 1730 amends the Live Local Act, so there's a little bit of a doubling down on the Live Local Act and expansion of what it entails in terms of eligible land uses. And then Senate Bill 110 is likely dead, but is still under consideration. That's the Rural Renaissance that also would abolish community redevelopment agencies. So there were a couple of things in that bill. I'll stop there and see if y'all have any questions, but just wanted to give you that short summary. Pretty active legislative session overall. Maybe not as difficult in some ways as last year's session. But it'll be a tough budget year in Tallahassee, so we do expect some reforms on property tax that'll come out of the House committee. We'll likely see those reforms either taken up in the next year's legislative session or placed on the ballot for the voters next year. And that creates some uncertainty in terms of budgeting for everybody. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Questions?
The last item in your packet is just kind of a start of the policy conversation at the federal level around the reauthorization of the next transportation bill. It says surface transportation reauthorization, but the Florida legislature has already deemed it that we can't just talk about surface transportation because now we're thinking about advanced air mobility. I put the AASHTO policy recommendations. They are the state highway officials for the most part, and their policy recommendations are included in there. I think a number of these are very good, and they're consistent with what I've heard our state secretary articulate, namely less reliance on discretionary grant funding and going back to more of the formula-driven funds that give states and MPOs, of course, a little more flexibility. It takes a lot to apply for these discretionary grants, and in my opinion, the last infrastructure law was weighted a little too heavily for those discretionary grants because they take a lot of staff time and your chances of success are just that much less. I will share other policy platforms that are out there as I come across them. Certainly want to balance those with different interests so that you get a full picture. We don't necessarily need to weigh in, but through the Association of MPOs and the National Association of Regional Councils, we are going to be paying close attention, and I will bring items of concern or areas of potential support to your attention for you all to make an informed decision as you're getting these requests. That's all I have.
All right, any questions on that? All right. And on this one, I'll say the priorities and ideas that are described here match closely with what I've heard over the last 2-3 months as I've attended legislative conferences for National League of Cities and also for the American Public Transportation Association for those for the federal level advocacy. Everything seems to be in line and looking for agreement on things like formula-based funding and prioritizing not just safety, but efficiency and cleanliness. And we've heard that from the Secretary of Transportation on down. So there just seems to be broad agreement in what the general priorities should be. And now we're hoping that that will funnel down to mean some good, good legislation and good policy that comes out of it. But it's nice to hear that these different organizations that have so much in common are actually singing from the same hymnal right now. Yeah, it's good. All right, thank you. Did you have anything else you wanted to share with us?
I do not.
All right. Did anyone from the board have any announcements or discussion items? All right. Thank you, everyone. On that note, then, I appreciate everyone being here today, and we are adjourned.